So, another day, another Gen X man who's in trouble for some form of serious offence. And today, that man is Sean Diddy Combs, who is at day 28 of his trial. And what's happening at the moment is that the defence are bringing in largely text messages or WhatsApp messages between Combs and two of his ex partners. So, the two ex partners are Cassie and another woman who has decided to remain anonymous, who they're referring to as Jane. And what the defence is trying to do is draw attention to these messages, which are coming across as warm or consensual towards Coombs. And, this is it's obviously problematic. It's awful for witnesses, victims to have to go through because it is undermining them, it's denying their credibility, and it's also trying to minimize the crimes that they have been victimized by. And it's kind of a classic trick by the defense. It's just the way that's what they're going to go to. The trouble is that when you're looking at offenses like this, trafficking offenses, the whole point is that it's about coercive control. It doesn't need to be about physical coercion or violence, because by the very nature of the offence, it is dependent on some form of coercive control. So it's kind of it is a weak defence, even if you look at it through a kind of legal standpoint. But also the point is that with this type of case, as we saw with the Weinstein case, what we know is that when women are victimized in these sorts of offences, they are trying to find ways to maintain control in a situation that is completely out of their control. So, one of the things that they will try to do is to try to placate the abuser. And there is a sense that if I just do all of the things that he's asking me to do, then he will stop asking me and it will stop. If I can just make him happy, then we can move on from this. But it's also the fear of retribution, that something might happen if they don't consent. He's a powerful person, so what might happen? But also there's a kind of a bonding, it's called trauma bonding, where there's a sense of finding safety through that person. Kind of, even though that person is the abuser, they're also the person that can shelter you, and that's kind of, you're trying to find support through them. So to use this type of approach is not very pleasant. Hopefully it won't hold much water, because it's clear that this is a trauma response. This is a kind of a victim response trying to find some semblance of safety and control in an awful situation. We'll see what happens. The trial is likely to end this week insofar as the prosecution is planning to rest. But, we can only sort of wait and see if this is what happens. I mean, Harvey Weinstein was convicted, and there was a similar approach in terms of the defense against for him in that case. But the other thing about Coombs I just want to mention, which is so dangerous and troubling, I mean, he clearly lacks empathy. That's clear. That's obvious. Anyone can see that he lacks empathy. But it's his ability to use people like objects in the kind of largest terms that you could imagine. I mean, I'm not just talking about like the numbers of people. It's partly the kind of quantity of it. It's so many people that have been impacted, and we will doubtless never know how many more other victims were impacted. But there is a really serious point around perpetrators who offend against the people that are close to them, the people that they are in a relationship with, that they are bonded to in some form or another. If you look at it purely from a psychological perspective rather than a social perspective, where you look at it in terms of the expectation of a relationship is something about safety and security. If you look at it from a purely psychological perspective, he is just using people that he is in close proximity to, that he is not able to find any sort of empathy towards, even to the people that he is intimate with. He's a highly, highly dangerous individual, not just because he had access to, extreme amounts of wealth and power, but because of his psychology and the way that he perceives other people. They're like shadow puppets. They really are. They're nothing more than that. They are just objects that he uses to amuse himself. So stay tuned. Let's see what happens this week. Hopefully, we'll get a good outcome. And if you agree, hit like, share, and follow for more content.